Bienvenidos, bienvenidas al noveno Congreso Online de Reiki, más allá del Reiki que conoces. Este congreso nace con un propósito muy claro: llevarte más allá de todo lo que sabes, de todo lo que conoces sobre Reiki, más allá de lo que has practicado, más allá de las técnicas y enseñarte que hay dimensiones más profundas sobre Reiki. Durante 3 días vas a tener acceso gratuito a exposiciones con grandes maestros y maestras que compartirán herramientas, enfoques y experiencias transformadoras. Ahora bien, hay algo clave que tienes que saber. Todo este contenido estará disponible únicamente durante los días del Congreso. Por eso, si quieres aprovechar realmente todo lo que estás viendo y acceder a este contenido de forma ilimitada, tienes la posibilidad de acceder a la entrada VIP, que te da acceso completo al contenido de este Congreso, sin límite de tiempo. Y si quieres, además, ir un paso más allá y acceder a la promoción de todos los congresos, podrás acceder a las grabaciones de los vídeos de las conferencias de los 8 congresos anteriores. Una herramienta de crecimiento continuo que te ayudará a expandirte y a crecer en tu camino de desarrollo con Reiki. Y ahora sí, vamos a lo realmente importante. Prepárate para recibir todo lo que esta ponencia tiene para ti. Te presento a Frans Stiene. Él es reconocido internacionalmente como uno de los mayores maestros investigadores de Reiki que hay en la actualidad. Nacido en los Países Bajos y residente en Haarlem, Holanda, ha dedicado gran parte de su vida a la investigación profunda de las raíces japonesas del sistema de Reiki y a la difusión de las enseñanzas tradicionales alrededor de todo el mundo. Es cofundador del International House of Reiki y de la Shibuni International Reiki Association, organizaciones dedicadas a preservar y transmitir el sistema de Reiki desde una perspectiva espiritual tradicional japonesa. Frans ha estudiado con maestros japoneses y con maestros occidentales, entre ellos Hiroshi Doi y Yakuten Inamoto y Chris Mars. Además, ha realizado investigaciones directas entrevistando importantes representantes de las antiguas tradiciones de Reiki en Japón. Desde 2012, además, continúa con su formación con un sacerdote japonés llamado Takeda Akushi Ayari, profundizando en las prácticas espirituales japonesas vinculadas al budismo esotérico y al Shugendo, con el único objetivo de comprender más profundamente las enseñanzas originales de Mikao Usui. Su estilo de enseñanza es reconocido por su cercanía, su profundidad y su claridad, y es autor de muchos libros ampliamente reconocidos, algunos de ellos traducidos al español como la Enciclopedia de Reiki o el Camino japonés de Reiki. La visión de Frans Stiene se enfatiza que el verdadero poder de Reiki surge del trabajo interior y que el practicante es el que tiene el poder para desarrollar ese trabajo. Su enseñanza integra meditación y presencia con compasión y práctica energética, recordándonos constantemente que el Reiki ante todo es un camino hacia el despertar de la conciencia y la conexión con nuestra verdadera naturaleza. Hoy viene a compartirnos una parte muy importante de este conocimiento con su presentación Understanding Reiki, Entendiendo Reiki. Bienvenido, Frans, y gracias por ser parte de este congreso. Welcome, Frans, and thank you for being part of this online Reiki Congress.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it.
Perfecto. Perfecto, pues adelante, vamos a comenzar con tu presentación, Understanding Reiki, Entendiendo Reiki. Great. Go ahead, you can start your presentation, Understanding Reiki.
Thank you. So, yes, thank you for inviting me and great. Thank you. So, yes, thank you for inviting me and great to be part of the Congress. Always wonderful. And it's always so nice to have this wonderful community of like-minded people. And of course, sometimes some people teach like this or some people teach like that, and that's also okay. So for me, Mikasui taught a form of hands-on healing, and yet he also taught a very specific practice to developing our own spiritual practice, our own insights. And I like to talk about this today because for me, it's so important. For example, in 1933, a book came out and it's by Kashi Tomita. He was a student of Mikasui. And if you read through this book, it's wonderful because Tomita tells us that the first of all, most important thing is our mindset. And then from that mindset, we do hands-on healing. And in a way, we can see this very, very clearly within the Reiki precepts. Here they are in Japanese. And the Reiki precepts, it doesn't say anything about hands-on healing. And we learned this already in Reiki 1. And it's for me, it's the foundation, you know, it's like when we look at traditional Japanese spiritual teachings, they all have precepts in it. And why? Because it explains in a nutshell the whole teachings. So first of all, for example, we have the precept or the phrase today. Mikasui didn't say during hands-on healing. He didn't say on a massage table, or he didn't say when we were meditating. No, he says today. And this is a very common phrase in Japanese spiritual teachings like Tendai Buddhism, Zen, etc. And today means that we bring it with us in all we do today. We just don't leave it on a massage table or during hands-on healing, but in all we do today. And this is so important. And the reason is why, because if we only focus on small moments, maybe once a week we do some hands-on healing on someone, or maybe we do a bit of hands-on healing on ourselves, then very difficult to progress into this state of mind of no anger, no worry, being grateful, being true to my way inner being, and being compassionate to myself and others. So when we look at the precepts, we see it's all about the mind. And yet sometimes we get caught up in the idea of hands-on healing or about energy, and that is okay. But Mikasui says, here is the key element. And what is interesting, that in certain booklets, what is still handed out in very traditional association in Japan, we see, for example, a question and answer element. And in one of the question and answer element, and these are answers supposedly by Mikasui. Again, we cannot verify this, but that's okay. And in the one of the question and answer elements is Mikasui tells us that one of the most important elements is helping people with the mindset of Kami or Buddha. Now, sometimes we get a bit caught up in this because then we think, oh, I don't want to be a Buddhist. I don't want to be Kami or whatever that means in Shintoism. But my teacher says, Frans, sometimes these words, we get too caught up in it. And I can see this too in a lot of modern Reiki practices, even in Japan. But yeah, the Buddha means really Buddha nature, your mindset, right? The mindset of this open spaciousness. For example, when we look at the precepts, we see a compassion. But most of the time, our compassion changes dramatically. One moment, you're my best friend. The next moment, you say something and you're not my best friend anymore. I'm not being kind to you. So the compassion goes like this. But the compassion Mikasui talks about is a compassion what doesn't change according to circumstances. So the mind of Buddha or the mind of Kami, and Kami often translated as God, but really is our inner Kami, or we can say our inner divine being. So in this question and answer element, Mikusui says, we have to do hands-on healing. And he says exactly the same as Kashi Tomita, from this state of mind of Kami or Buddha nature. Now, this is not that easy, of course, as we all know, right? And this is why when we sit on our meditation and we do maybe some hands-on healing or we practice one of the meditations taught in the system of Reiki, we say, oh, I'm feeling so calm. And then we open the door and we go out to work or our relationship or with friends and we go, whoa, suddenly we angry, we worried, we have a lot of fear, anxiety, our compassion moves all over the place. So not that easy, of course. But this is also why Mikasui put some really interesting tools within the system of Reiki. Like, first of all, hands-on healing. It's a very easy to do in a way. Then we have meditation practices. Then we have symbols and mantras. Then we have something called Reiju, or sometimes translated as attunement or initiation. And then, of course, we have the precepts. So the precepts traditionally are a description, and we can see this in Zen, we can see exactly the same in Tendai Buddhism, And the reason I talk about Tendai Buddhism is because Mikasui trained on Mount Karama, and Mount Karama, at the time that Mikasui was doing the training there, belonged to the Tendai Buddhist sect. So the precepts in those traditions, they point out to your true nature, your essence, your inner luminosity, or the mind of Buddha, or the mind of Kami. Kami, your inner divine being. And so in the same booklet, but in another chapter, there is something also very, very wonderful, and I like it. And in fact, the heading of this chapter is called The Strict Teachings of Mikasui. So it says it already, right? The Strict Teachings of Mikasui. And it starts with a poem. My Japanese is not so good, so I will do it in English. Do not think that the light appears only after the clouds have cleared. The light of the moon has been shining in the sky from the very beginning. So here again, do not think that the light appears only after the clouds have cleared. So what is the clouds? Our anger, our worry, our fear, our ego, our confusion, our attachment. The light of the moon, this great bright light that we are Reiki, pure mind, has been shining in the sky from the very beginning. And this is in this booklet as the strict teachings of Mikasui. Again, it doesn't say anything about hands-on healing. It says about the mind. And I live on the 11th floor, and today it's beautiful weather, but there's some clouds in the sky. And sometimes in our daily life, we have so many clouds like anger, worry, frustration, fear. And we all know that. What happens when we have these clouds and we get caught up in it? My body tenses, right? We get tight like this. So then what happens to your energy? Doesn't flow, it becomes almost frozen. We all have that. Not so long, not so. My mother passed away about a week ago. We had a funeral. And then, of course, you go like this. You only see the clouds. And then when you feel sad, and it's okay to feel sad, and it's okay to feel worried, and it's okay to be angry for a little bit. But if we hold on like this, day in, day out, for years, then my energy becomes really stagnant. My mind becomes like this. My body becomes like this. My energy is not flowing. And we all know that because after those whole days, I felt really, really tired. But if we look beyond the clouds, the sun or the moon is always bright. So we can shift this perception. And we shift this perception by focusing on what we need to focus on. So I always say, if we focus on something or we give it water, it grows. So if I give the clouds water, my worry, my fear, my anxiety, attachments, then that starts to grow. But if I focus on this light of the moon, or that I am a divine being, Kami, or Buddha nature, what has already been there, then that awareness start to grow. I become more and more aware of this inner luminosity within myself. And here comes a fun thing, because I cannot always do hands-on healing. I live in Haarlem, close to Amsterdam. Say I go to Amsterdam, and I cannot do hands-on healing on everybody there. I get arrested, or someone punches me on the head and go like, "Hey man, what is up to?" However, I can, as much as possible, in my daily life, shine this beautiful bright light of no anger, no worry, being grateful, being true to my way, and being compassionate. This in itself, when we look at the one precept, for example, Gyo Hakame, we can also translate it, practice diligently. So what do we have to practice diligently? The mindset of this inner luminosity. And we take that in our daily life. And the more we take this in our daily life, the more that energy starts to keep flowing through my whole body. Automatically, I feel more whole, right? And because when we look at the word healing, traditionally this comes from an old English word and it means wholeness. So in reality, remembering that we are whole already. Now, Mikasui put some great meditation practices within his teachings. And one of them, for example, again, we learned this in Reiki 1, is called Joshin Kokyoho. And if you translate Joshin, it means pure mind. And Kokyo means breathing in and out. Now, when we first learn this, we see it as a practice. So we sit, we do the practice, and Joshin Kokyo is kind of breathing in that light into the hara. And in the beginning, we feel it expands. And then on the out breath, we feel it permeating out in the skin and into the surroundings. And then after 10 minutes or 20 minutes or 45 minutes, we stop. And then Joshin Kokyo is finished. However, Kokyo, breathing in and out, after my meditation alarm goes and it's finished, I'm still breathing in and out, right? I haven't stopped breathing. So the deeper element of Joshin Kokyo means that with every single breath we take, we remember this pure mind. So this is a link to that beautiful poem that the moon always shines, no matter how many clouds there are in front of it, or the sun is always bright and sunny, no matter how many clouds, and that with every breath we take, we remember this luminosity, or in Japanese, this is called pure mind. Pure mind is a mind of no anger, no worry, being grateful, being true to our inner being, and being compassionate. A compassion what doesn't change according to circumstances. And again, we all know how difficult this is. So, but if we keep practicing Joshin Kokyoho, then maybe we realize, because in the beginning we're breathing it into the hara, and then we feel it expanding. We feel that light expanding. And then when we breathe out through the skin, we feel that it expands out further and further into the world. And that's great. But over time, the more we practice it, maybe we realize I'm breathing in. I go, oh, I don't need to expand it to my body. I am already this light. I'm already this pure mind. I'm already whole. I'm already kami. I'm already Buddha nature. Then when we're breathing out and we're permeating it out, then, oh, the whole outside is also already pure mind. Is also already bright and luminous. It's also already spacious. So for example, oh, maybe I use this. Hang on. This is a vase I just have standing here on my table. In the beginning, we think that the space inside is very different than the space outside. But when I break this, then I cannot distinguish anymore what was inside and outside. And that breaking is kind of, what do we break? I, me, mine. This tightness, these worries, this fear, all based on I, me, mine, past and future, for example. And when we break this, suddenly we realize inside is outside and outside is inside. So here's another wonderful thing Mikasui said. He said, I am Komyo and Komyo is me. And Komyo in this case means bright light. It's a Zen phrase also used in Tenda Buddhism. So I am the bright light, or the bright light is in me, and I'm the bright light. Or in other words, I'm the universe is me. But this needs to be a very direct realization. I always in English, I'm not sure how it's in Spanish, but in English, we say embodiment means with your whole body. And so sometimes in a class, I said, okay, it's not enheadment, just intellectually, but with our whole body. And when we remember it with our whole body, we feel this deep within ourselves. So, oh, I can really feel this inner luminosity, this inner spaciousness, this inner openness. And then we realize that no matter what we do during the day, with each breath, we are pure mind. Now, sometimes I hear people go, Oh, but I don't want to be this pure mind. I'm still a human being. I want to be angry. I want to be worried. But imagine, okay, that we as individuals could embody the Reiki precepts in our daily life. So you, me, other people. And imagine if that happens today. Then today we have world peace, right? That would be quite amazing. Of course, we all know how difficult that is, right? So Mikasui talked about this in reality because he said today in all we do. And again, in some of these booklets and elements, he talks about being human, being humane. The word human comes from humane, means being kind and compassionate. So when we look therefore at the practice of Joshin Kokyo, pure mind, then that is the same as the Reiki precepts. That is the same as a mindset of being kami. And it's the same, the mindset of Buddha nature. And that we can take with us in our daily life. However, to really realize this, we have to follow the correct way. And I'm not saying that other people is incorrect. It's a little bit, I don't know how to cook. So if I maybe cook something Spanish, I definitely need a recipe book. So I grab the recipe and I follow the recipe. The recipe says, this, and then we get that. If we look at a recipe book, we often also see a picture of the whole meal, maybe some ingredients, but we also see a picture of the whole meal. So when I look at the recipe and the recipe book, I see already how it should look like. For example, if maybe I lived in Australia for a long time and it was a program called MasterChef. And if the one of these famous chefs came in and the participants had to make, for example, an amazing dish, like a Michelin star dish. The first thing the participant did was tasting it, right? They got a taste of how it should taste like. In a cookbook, we don't have it. I can't link the cookbook, not yet. But I can look at the picture and I get an idea. And then I follow the recipe. If I don't follow the recipe correctly, maybe I don't get the desired result. Maybe actually the meal is not even edible. Like if I throw all the ingredients just in one bowl and I stick it in the oven and I take it out, then I go like, it didn't work. So if I practice the system of Reiki like this, I just chuck it all in and then practice randomly, then I also don't follow Mikasui's recipe. And if we look very, very clearly, then we can see a very specific recipe within Mikasui's teachings. So for example, the photo of the food is the precepts. This is the outcome of our practice. Again, Kashi Tomita in 1933, a direct student of Mikosui, pointed this out as well. Some modern people, particularly also even in Japan, they say, no, it's just about hands-on healing. And that is because they just focus on hands-on healing. Perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with it. But if I just focus on hands-on healing, very difficult to embody the Reiki precepts. I need to add into the mix Joshin Kokyo. So first of all, traditionally you will use taught Joshin Kokyo. Now this is what we do. We practice it once a week. And then we go like, yeah, this is a great meditation practice, or we practice it before we receive Reiju. And they said it's great. But imagine now if we would practice Joshin Kokyo every day for 45 minutes. Every day we remember with this in and out breath. I am Kami. I am a divine being. I am the precepts. I'm already whole. So constantly we are reaffirming this wholeness. My life would be very, very different. Because what do I normally confirm all the time, I'm not good, I can't do it, I have a pain, I'm sick, I'm depressed, I'm angry, I'm worried. We constantly focus on the past, we constantly focus on the future, we constantly get caught up in the present moment. So, again, what I water grows. I like also this concept. If I plant an apple seed, I get apples, I don't get bananas. And if I plant a pineapple tree, I also don't get bananas or apples, I get a pineapple. So for me, the Reiki precepts are saying, what are we planting today? Do we plant worry? Do we plant anger? Or do we plant gratefulness or compassion or kindness? So then that automatically will have an effect on my whole well-being. And when I feel more open, spacious, interconnected, then my hands-on healing will be very, very, very different. Imagine, Mikasui, I'm Komio, Komio is me. I am the universe is me. Not just intellectual, not just with our head, but with our whole body. Imagine if we could embody this, then our hands-on healing will be very different. Why? Because we have now an unlimited amount of universal energy at our disposal. I lived in India for 2 years, and for 1 year, I lived in the Himalaya. And I remember I just started, I just had done Reiki 1, 2, and 3. I was super innocent. I'm still innocent. I know nothing. I know nothing. And this young guy, I got introduced to this young guy, and he was a Tibetan tulku, a reincarnated Lama. And he was, I think, 20 or 21. And so we became friends. And one day he, Frans, what is Reiki? I'm like, hands-on healing like this. And he said, oh, like this. And he puts his hand forwards to me. Holy moly. I had never experienced anything like it. My mind was like a blank, clear mirror like this. I felt so spacious. I felt energy going from my toes to my crown, just with him putting his hand towards me like this. And I go, I want what he has. And I asked him, how do you do this? And he goes, I just come out of a retreat for 3 years in a cave with my teacher. So, of course, he had really understood pure mind. And no matter if they're Tibetan or Japanese, there is no specific Tibetan pure mind or Christian pure mind or Japanese pure mind. That pure mind is just pure mind, right? And then in 2001, I started to go to Japan. In 2003, I met a priest in Japan who was seen as a living Buddha. And again, this guy, I was talking to this guy for like maybe 5 minutes. And I thought I had like 10 Reiki treatments, 10 Reijus. An hour later, I was still shaking like this. The energy in my body and my mind was just unbelievable. And so to me, when we meet people like this who've really done meditation practices, and Mikasui again, he put Joshin Kokuho, very important element in it. Seisin Toitsus, concentration. Seisin Toitsu means concentration practice. Why do we need to concentrate? Because if I'm not concentrating, particularly in the beginning, I get distracted by the past, by the future, by the present moment. I get caught up. What am I feeling? What does it mean? Etc., etc. And here's a fun element. In a way, I think it's fun because it's so clearly there that most of the time we don't even see it. When we look at the Reiki precepts, we start off, do not anger. And if we think about it, what do we anger about? Something what happened 1 minute ago, something what happened 10 years ago. So do not anger is about the past. Do not worry. What do we worry about? Something is going to happen, right? in the next minute or in 10 years' time. So it's about the future. And what are we most of the time not grateful about? The present moment. So here we can already see, if we look deeper within the Reiki precepts, Mikasui said, don't get distracted by the past. Don't get distracted by the future. Don't get caught up in the present moment. Whatever takes place when we do hands-on healing or a meditation practice, just be grateful for the experience. Don't get caught up in it. This great Zen master, I love his teachings. And he says you leave the front door open and the back door open, and the thoughts of feelings and sensations come in through the front door and out of the back door, and in the middle, don't serve it tea. Now, most of the time, we serve these thoughts tea, but all these traditional meditation practices talk about don't get caught up in what we feel, sense. So, also in a way, don't get caught up in what we're feeling and sensing. In Japan, often they call it hibiki. Hibiki is what we feel. But if we translate the word hibiki, it means echo. Like if I sit in a particular corner in my apartment, there is a certain echo. But if I get caught up in an echo is insubstantial, right? The essence is very insubstantial. So therefore, don't get caught up in the echo. Zen talks about this, Tendai talks about this, and yet we get so caught up in what we feel and sense, etc. And here comes the interesting part. What I give water grows. So if I do my practice, hands-on healing or my meditation practice, and I keep getting caught up in what I sense, what it means, what it feels, etc., I'm giving this getting caught up water. And then I go into my daily life, and then I wonder why I'm so caught up in my daily life. And this, of course, doesn't correlate at all with the concept of Joshin Kokyo, pure mind, or that the moon is already whole, the moon is already shining. It also doesn't add up with concentration, because when we concentrate, we don't get caught up, right? It's the same if I drive in my car and I get distracted, I probably have an accident or I go like this. So, for example, also in Reiki 2, we have, let's say, the second symbol. And the second symbol traditionally in Japan is linked to Amida Buddha. Now here, of course, we can see to that mindset of Buddha or the mindset of Kami. Now, Amida Buddha is traditionally not some deity one hangs up there. Now, traditionally, if you translate Amida, infinite light. So it's your infinite light. Your inner divine being is infinite light. Your mindset of Buddha nature is infinite light. If we embody the Reiki precepts, we feel so light. Why? Because we don't carry the anger, we don't carry the worry, we don't carry the fear. We're grateful for whatever happens today, what happens to your energy. Infinite possibilities, infinite healing. The third symbol, if you translate it, it means my original nature is right mind. Now, here, something wonderful. It points out to my original nature. It doesn't say anything about hands-on healing. It doesn't say do get caught up. It talks about my original nature. Again, very common in Japanese spiritual practices. What is this original nature? Is in Japanese called right mind. And right mind, maybe some of you have heard it, is also mushin or no mind. And this is often in Zen or in martial arts practice, they use the word mushin or no mind. So right mind is the same as no mind. Now here we have to be very careful with language, because then we think, oh, I cannot think anything. But that's impossible, right? Because thoughts will come up. What no mind actually means, don't get caught up, don't give it tea. So the mind in that particular symbol and mantra, Nen, and from traditional teachings, Nen means don't get caught up in the second Nen, the third Nen, the fourth Nen, the fifth Nen. And for example, I'll give you an idea. Say it's raining. I look out of the window, first Nen or first thought, rain. And then I go, I don't like it. Now I'm going to get wet. This is going to be a crappy day. And suddenly I'm unhappy, right? Because I got caught up in the first thought. I added a second thought. The first thought was fine. I do this also with people, right? You meet someone or you say, oh, there is Betty. Betty, first thought. And then, oh, but I don't like her because of this, this. And then, of course, my compassion, like that. Then I might get worried, then I might get angry. So my original nature is right mind, means don't get caught up in the second, third, fourth, fifth. And sometimes we all have known that. I still do it. You get caught up in one thought and you can't sleep. And it's like a record player goes around and around and around and around. And we get so caught up. We create a whole story around this first thought. And then maybe we talk to the person who is triggered. I do between brackets because hopefully it's just ourselves, right? But we feel triggered by that person. And then they go, what? Did I say that? Oh, I didn't really even think about it. Or I forgot about it already. And yet we cannot sleep about it. So therefore, when we look at these elements within the system of Reiki, we can clearly see again that Mikosu is talking about the right state of mind. In fact, we can also see it in the precepts. Mikosui call these teachings officially Shinshin Kaisen Usui Reiki Reo. Now, Shinshin means mind-body harmony. My body is right here. So one of the reasons we start first doing hands-on healing on ourselves to, if we do it focus, so here we come to the recipe again. If I do hands-on healing on myself and I go, or I grab the phone and I go, then I'm not practicing focused hands-on healing. But if I do it focused, not being distracted by the past, present, future, then my body is right here. There is no past. My body is not in the past. My body is not in the future. My body is right here. We can see the same in all of these traditional teachings of yoga, Tai Chi. Your body is right here. They all start first with body practice. So when my mind is right here, not getting caught up, automatically that energy can flow really freely, right? So Shinshin Kaisen, mind-body harmony. My mind is right here, my body is right here. Normally my body is here, my mind is in the past, my mind is in the future, my mind gets caught up in the present moment. So therefore Shinshin Kaisen, we can see already that it is very important. And Mikasui used the word mind first, mind, body. In Kaizen, often harmony, but really is this harmony of I am the universe is me. And traditionally, Kaizen is a state of mind, the state of mind of this harmonious or wholeness. Right? Of course, Shinshin Kaisen Usui, we know Reiki, often translated as spiritual energy, but if we look at the word Reiki in ancient teachings, it can also mean Kami or Buddha nature, pure mind, right? Pure mind. And Reiki means healing. So often it was also used external healing, but traditionally, again, the word healing comes from wholeness, realizing our wholeness. Imagine if I cut off my arm, then there's not less Frans, right? Frans is still whole. If I cut off my leg, then also Frans is still whole. So where is this wholeness? As I told you, my mom just passed away, and it's really interesting. Because as soon as we see a person passing away, we say, for example, say I pass away, then you say Frans is gone, but the physical body of Frans is still there, right? So suddenly during that process, we realize that Frans is not the physical body because the body of Frans, but now we say we see something what has left the body, and that is now what we label Frans. So what is this? In Zen, sometimes, and this links to the second symbol and mantra, in Zen, they often say, what were you before you were born? Or what were you before your mom and dad? Or what is your original face? And when we tap into that, then we realize it's this inner wholeness, right? And when we look at healing, I've been thinking about this a lot lately. And also, the reason was that in Kaji Tomita's book in 1933, um, he also mentioned this, that this healing is about transcending birth, growing up, or old age, illness, and dying. So when we look at the Reiki precepts, we also see that in it, but we have to look deeply. We all will age. And when we age, what happens? Our back becomes stiff. Maybe some joints become old. Maybe my heart or my lungs. So we will have physical problems. Not for everybody, but for most people when we grow old. We can see it, right? So it means is we cannot heal ourselves completely from all physical issues. It will be impossible. But maybe today I feel perfectly fine. And I'll give you an example. Maybe tonight I'll go partying, drink some really great Rioja and a few bottles. Tomorrow I have a terrible headache. So I cannot stop this. Maybe if I keep anyway. So I cannot stop that. I can also not stop dying. We all die. I cannot stop old age, right? But what can I do? Realize my wholeness so that when I grow old, when I do get sick, I can do it without anger, without worry, being grateful, being true to my way inner being and being compassionate. Then already the illness or the growing old has less hold on me. I feel more open. And what happens when illness and growing old has less hold on me? What happens to my physical body? I feel less tight. I feel more relaxed. I can relax. I can be grateful in my illness. I can be grateful for my growing old. And when I be grateful, what happens to my energy? It starts to flow. And automatically, I start to feel better, right? It's an interesting thing. So in a way, can we grow old and die without anger, without worry, being grateful, being true to my way, my being, and being compassionate? A compassion but doesn't change according to circumstances. That is really the outcome of the system of Reiki. And this is why Mikusui presented the precepts to his students. First of all, look, here, like the recipe, when we follow the right recipe in the right order, then we realize this state of mind, of pure mind, of Joshin, or the mind of Kami or Buddha nature, or the mind of that this moon is always shining, like the strict teachings of Mikusui. From that, as also again Kaji Tomita says in 1933, one of Mikusui's students, from that comes hands-on healing. Kaji Tomita actually said hands-on healing is the byproduct of our inner awareness of being open and spacious. The embodiment of the Reiki precepts. Hopefully this all makes sense. So follow the right recipe, look at the precepts, go and practice as much as possible Joshin Kokuho, Seisin Toitsu, internalize the symbols and mantras, look at what they mean and where they're pointing at, then already we're on the right way.
Oh, incredible, incredible, very, very interesting, very complete, and very deep, very deep.
Thank you.
Uh,
Muchas gracias.
Increíble, ha sido genial, una charla muy completa, muy profunda y bueno, ha sido muy interesante y bueno, y sobre todo espiritual. Muchísimas gracias, Franz, por la exposición que nos has compartido. Gracias por todo tu trabajo con Reiki y por el maravilloso regalo que nos compartes en este congreso. Well, it was great. It's very interesting, profound, and spiritual talk. Thank you so much, Franz, for your presentation and for all your work with Reiki. Your participation in this conference is a wonderful gift.
Muchas gracias. Thank you so much for listening and thank you for inviting me and have a great congress. I think it will be fantastic. Great speakers. So I'm excited.
Maravilloso, maravilloso. Thank you very much, Franz. Una charla maravillosa, unas respuestas, como hemos visto, muy sabias y coherentes y fáciles de integrar. Ha sido una oportunidad maravillosa para poder profundizar en la comprensión sobre lo que realmente es Reiki en su esencia. Recuerda que en la descripción de esta conferencia pues tienes todos los accesos a las diferentes redes sociales y contactos del maestro Frans Stiene, así que puedes profundizar en su enseñanza si lo deseas. Y bueno, antes de despedirnos, te animo a seguir profundizando en este noveno Congreso Online de Reiki, más allá del Reiki que conoces. Recuerda que este contenido estará de forma gratuita durante los días que dure el Congreso y si quieres acceder a ellos tienes el acceso a través de la entrada VIP para que puedas disfrutar de todo este contenido al ritmo que tú quieras. Además, con esa colaboración nos ayudas a subvencionar el Congreso y poder ofrecer cada vez un contenido de mayor nivel. Además, pues puedes acceder también a la promoción de todos los congresos, en el cual puedes acceder a los 9 congresos de por vida, con el contenido de los 8 congresos anteriores. La verdad es que es una oportunidad única para que profundices en tu enseñanza y puedas desarrollarte. Muchas gracias por estar ahí, espero que disfrutes mucho con el resto de ponencias y nos vemos en otra ocasión. Hasta pronto.